Hello. Welcome, everybody, the Political Vigilante. There was an article that was written by Katie Halper. Again, Katie Halper, I did a video about. She responded to a woman that was a baby boomer feminist blaming millennial feminists for why Hillary lost. And there's more of this kind of shit happening. So the editor of Miss Magazine tweeted, "Rejoice, for one day Bernie Sanders will retire or die, and gonna build a monument for all the women who were right and erect it on top of Bernie Sanders' grave." Awesome. And what Katie Halper is this, her response to this, and the link is below. She's real smart, man. Katie just goes right to it, and I'm so glad she's making these points as a woman who's a self-proclaimed feminist, because what happens so often is female Hillary supporters say these things, and then myself or any other guy says, well, that's bullshit. And then I'm just, oh, you don't know, you're a patriarch, you know, okay. So, but the point that she's making is, imagine if the editor of a left-wing magazine that openly supported Bernie Sanders said these exact same things about Hillary. Katie Halper talks about people would go nuts. The left-wing corporate media would be, oh my God, this is an ask for the person's resignation, and this is awful, and this is all this stuff. And it's like, women are tired of this, but this is okay to say about Bernie Sanders? So if you're this critical of Bernie Sanders and you want him to die and build a monument on his grave, then can we all just assume you're an anti-Semite? Is that cool if I just blanket you with that? Oh, you must hate Jews because you're critical of Bernie Sanders? Well, one thing I know you don't like. You must not like $15 an hour. You must not like healthcare for all, single payer healthcare for all. So where there's this big thing, you know, the new Trump care thing, and I'll go into some of that in a different video, is awful, and all of his pre-existing conditions are like, rape is a pre-existing condition, and you know, oh God. You can't get treated, and it's awful. But let's be clear, Obamacare is basically Romney care. Obama buckled, and a lot of Democrats buckled when they created Obamacare and made it a Republican. Obamacare is a Republican healthcare system. So this is, so that's my question. Like, do you hate college? So if you hate Bernie, so you just hate college tuition for everybody? You hate healthcare for everybody? You hate $15 an hour? Is that what you're saying? It's just preposterous, and these things keep happening. This just happened a couple weeks ago, or actually last month. This tweet happened last month, but Katie Halper responded to this on May 3rd, because those pro-Hillary people are still saying these awful things. Hillary Clinton just did an interview last week where she was like, yeah, it was my fault, but, you know, it was also WikiLeaks and James Comey. And it's like, well, she still, and her supporters and powerful people, the editor of this is a big, powerful magazine, can't say how awful it is that they cheated. They can't admit they cheated. They just won't wake up to the fact, oh, what was it? Because when Bernie said, wait your turn, when Hillary was interrupting, that's when a lot of women said, oh, I'm done with him. He's a sexist. Okay, well, if he was interrupting Hillary and Hillary said, wait your turn, Bernie, I wouldn't be like, oh, she hates old Jewish guys. I'd be like, yeah, maybe he should wait his turn. I'm so sick of this shit. But this is the problem, is that wing of the Democratic Party just keeps pushing this same narrative. They keep talking like it's the goddamn election. And Hillary won't, right after the loss, if like a couple weeks or a month after the loss, Hillary came forward and said, you know what, we screwed up on a lot of levels. I, should have run a better campaign. It's no one else's fault that I didn't go to Wisconsin. And I attacked Trump too much versus saying, these are my policies. Like, what does Hillary stand for? I didn't know what Hillary stood for. I knew what Trump did. And Hillary and the Democratic leadership have not done that. Because here's the thing you need to know about the two parties. And I was talking to my friend, John Updike, who runs open primaries, and he made a great point to me. He said, Graham, the two parties don't care about winning. And I was like, what? He goes, they just care about keeping their power. And look at the Democratic Party. They had lost across the board. This is not my opinion. This is not conjecture, but they lost the White House, the Senate, the House, 2/3 of governorships, and over 900 state Senate seats. They don't care that they lost as long as they still have the power. And that's why they still need Bernie Sanders to go on this unity tour with Tom Perez, because basically that's saying Bernie is the only thing keeping any progressives remotely tied to the Democratic Party. A bunch of them have already bailed, and many of them have bailed on Bernie even and felt betrayed by him, which I understand. I'm not one of those people. I don't feel betrayed by him. I get what he's doing. He's an independent, and playing ball with the Democrats puts him on these committees and stuff like that. And he doesn't want to be Ralph Nader, who is just completely shut out and ostracized by the left-wing power, the power elites, the liberal power elites, just pushed Nader out after 2000, which again, it wasn't Ralph Nader's fault that Al Gore ran a shitty campaign. Every time a Democrat runs a shitty campaign against a horrible Republican, they blame everybody else but themselves. So I'm going to go into this a little bit what Katie Halper says. She says, let's do a thought experiment, shall we? Imagine that an editor of a left-wing magazine, let's say The Nation, I just said this, but this is what Katie Halper says, who'd been supportive of Bernie Sanders during the primary, tweeted the following: rejoice, for one day Hillary Clinton will retire or die. Or how about going to build a monument to all the Sanders voters who were right and erected on top of Hillary Clinton's grave. So this article says, she makes some great points. To clarify, there was nothing, this is why I like Katie Halper. She doesn't overreact to their overreaction. Like when they say crazy shit, she doesn't go, well, you too. Blah, blah. She just very intelligently and very methodically says, and just makes all these salient points, which they don't seem to be huge fans of. So she says, to clarify, there's nothing wrong with an editor expressing a clear preference for one candidate over another, which she did on several occasions. And you see Cameron Rios is the editor of Miss Magazine, which was founded by Gloria Steinem. And Katie Halper says, I'm a huge fan of Gloria Steinem. She's done a lot for women's rights over the years. And she shows these tweets of Cameron Rios saying, you know, I like Hillary and you're the best person and you're my everything. She has the right to do that. The problem is when an editor expresses joy at someone's eventual death and fantasizes about building a monument, not an homage, on top of his grave. That this person happens to be a sitting senator who ran across the country campaigning harder for Hillary Clinton than any other single human being besides Bill Clinton is irrelevant but poignant. Yeah, that's the other thing. You still want Bernie Sanders dead? He campaigned for Hillary. He campaigned for Hillary. He didn't say, I lost the primary, fuck you, I'm running as an independent. He still might have won. But what if he would have done that? I could maybe see this. He campaigned for her and they still want him dead. And they still blame him and the Burn Bros and all this other shit. I just did the Jimmy Dore show live again at the Hollywood Improv. And I would say that crowd, over half of that crowd was probably in their 50s or 60s, and half of them were women. The whole Burn, it wasn't a bunch of like millennial Burn Bros going, yeah, Jimmy. It was like an amazing cross-section of people from ethnicity, gender, age. It was fantastic. So progressives come in all shapes and sizes. Nina Turner is a progressive. Tulsi Gabbard is a progressive. Bernie Sanders is a progressive. So, and then Katie Halper does some great things. She goes, allow me to address the inevitable responses my statements will provide. People wish for Clinton's death all the time. Yes, they do. They are randos on the internet and not editors of major publications. It's like when Cameron Esposito, when everyone was mad at Obama, I was one of those people for taking the $400,000 from Cantor Fitzgerald. And Cameron Esposito, I don't know her, but she's a pretty successful comedian. I've seen her stuff. She's funny. Said, you know, Larry the Cable Guy gets $400,000 to do shows. Larry the Cable Guy's not president. Wasn't president. Didn't bail out Wall Street. So those are always false equivalencies that are like, that's not the case here. But rejoicing at Hillary's death would be misogynist and representative of a violence and harassment that women face more than men and that Clinton faces more than Sanders. Yes, it would be, Katie Halper writes. It's undeniable that celebrating the death of a woman is different from celebrating the death of a man. And of course, there were no lock her up or drag her equivalents for Sanders, mainly because he's not a criminal like the Clintons. People wanted to lock up Bill Clinton too. But I will go on a limb and say that rejoicing at someone's death is deplorable even without the misogyny. And while anti-Semitism is not comparable to sexism and misogyny, it's time to stop pretending that all criticism of Sanders is free of it. There is often as much evidence of anti-Semitism as there is of misogyny in statements which Clinton partisans label as definitely misogynist. Well, that's the thing. You can, if you criticize Hillary, you're a misogynist, just no matter what. She voted for the war in Iraq. She supported the Patriot Act. She's in favor of fracking. She's against $15 an hour. Oh, I must hate women then because I say those things. So here's Katie Halper's last paragraph of the article, which is very relevant. While its founder, Gloria Steinem, was criticized for dismissing young women who supported Sanders as wanting to be, quote, where the boys are, this comment, for which she apologized, was certainly outweighed by her contributions to and sacrifices for feminism. But Miss Steinem had also stumped for Sanders, whose policies were feminist enough for her to anoint him a, quote, honorary woman. I didn't know that. Rejoicing at his death dishonors Miss Magazine as well as Miss Steinem. And it's permissible. As I've said before, if Bernie would have won the nomination the way Hillary won, if superdelegates in states that voted for Hillary gave their votes to Bernie, if a man at CNN was giving Bernie answers or questions before the debate, if all these emails came out about a bunch of men and just powerful people within the DNC blocking Hillary so he could get the nomination, women would have gone fucking apeshit, and rightfully so. And rightfully so. So how is this acceptable? I thank Katie Halper for speaking out about this, because here's what I want. I want equality, and I want equality, though, especially on the financial level. I want the 1% to start helping people out. I want to see progressive policy across the board. And I'll take a progressive policy wherever I can get it. Be it an old Jewish guy from Vermont, a black woman from Ohio, or a surfing vet from Hawaii. I just want progressive. I want real policy, real change, because the middle class is being eroded and crushed. It happened to me, mainly because of policy from Obama, who I voted for twice. Does that make me racist? Or am I just tired of the rich, powerful elitists of all ethnicities now fucking over regular people? Because regular people of all ethnicities are getting fucked over by the 1%. So more of this is why we need to take a stand and vote out, do what the Tea Party did. I've said this time and time again, and I'm going to keep saying it. In 2018, vote them out. Vote out the corporate Democrats. Vote them out. And maybe we need a true third party. Maybe that's what we need. Thanks for watching.